They know that my office is there. So if you need to leave anything, coach me. Most of them know, but I am around the corner if you guys need anything. All right.
You got some slips in.
Yeah,
There you go.
you can send your checks to high there.
Weeks ago, that makes days all
And then the ship goes.
So I turned it off at 11, and I guess I was yeah, I don't. I'm okay. I don't know. I'm yeah.
Went from there. Went to the house.
You didn't look like you're no,
I didn't know that I'm there. Thank you, though. All right.
She decided to try that.
No, really.
No, I actually know it should be in this district, so.
Hey, I've always wanted to move to Kansas City.
You what?
I can move to Kansas City.
Are you available? Sure. Okay. I'll let you know.
Hey, I've been doing this for years. That should qualify me to know a little bit, right?
I'll put it in.
Not quite yet, because they are, they've got the academy, getting ready to start their training. That process.
Senate Committee on Transportation Infrastructure, Public Safety, being called order, call vote.
Senator Lively.
Here.
Schatz.
Here.
Dixon. Munslinger. Roman.
Here.
Chappelle Vidal.
Aye.
Pearls.
We have one, I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Have a second. Have a second. Committee is now in executive session. I make a motion to vote Senate Bill 915 out of committee be passed consent. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Senate Bill 915 was sponsored by Senator Schaefer. There's the designated 2 memorial highways in Boone County. Does anyone have any questions on this particular bill? Seeing none, we will have 2 roll call votes. The first will be to pass the bill. The second will be for consent status.
Excuse me, can you explain what the bill is again?
I just asked for questions on that. Questions?
Yeah, I was talking to my intern. I
Okay.
didn't hear an explanation. I apologize, but I thought that would be.
It's a designated 2 memorial highways in Boone County.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We will have 2 roll call votes. The first will be to pass the bill. The second will be for consent status. Call roll for voting Senate Bill 915 out of committee to pass.
Senators Lively.
Aye.
Schatz.
Here. Aye.
Dixon. Munslinger. Roman.
Aye.
Chappelle Vidal.
Aye.
Pearls.
By your vote 4-0, we have voted Senate Bill 915 out of committee to pass. Call roll for voting Senate Bill 9115 out of committee to pass consent.
Senators Lively.
Aye.
Schatz.
Aye.
Dixon. Munslinger. Roman.
Aye.
Chappelle Vidal.
Aye.
Pearls.
By your vote 4-0, we have voted Senate Bill 915 out of committee to pass consent. I'm making a motion now to vote Senate Bill 884 out of committee to pass. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Senate Bill 884 is sponsored by Senator Munslinger, which would modify the per barrel fee for the inspection of certain motor fuels. Senator Munslinger here. Same. Any discussion on that particular bill? It's on the per barrel fee for the inspection of certain motor fuels.
Oh, that's the one that
Weights and measures.
brings it up to,
It just
they
is a
can't go
little
over
bit.
cost. but-
That's right, can't go over cost. That's exactly right. Any questions on that? Seeing none, call roll for voting Senate Bill 884 out of committee to pass.
Senators Lively.
Aye.
Schatz.
Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Munslinger. Roman.
Aye.
Chappelle Vidal.
Aye.
Pearls.
By your vote of 5-0, we have voted Senate Bill 884 out of committee to pass, and I'll make a motion to vote Senate Bill 1006 out of committee to pass. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Have a second. Senate Bill 1006 was also sponsored by Senator Munslinger, which would modify provisions relating to video conferencing at hearings before the Board of Probation and Parole. Any questions on that, or everybody remember that bill?
I don't. Is it for or against that?
No, that would allow that, yeah.
I'm pro that.
Yes. Everybody okay? Everybody ready? Here we go. Call the roll for voting Senate Bill 1006 out of committee to pass.
Senators Lively.
Aye.
Schatz.
Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Munslinger. Roman.
Aye.
Chappelle Vidal.
Aye.
Pearls.
By your vote of 5-0, we have voted Senate Bill 1006 out of committee to pass. I now make a motion to vote Senate Bill 6114 out of committee to pass. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Senate Bill 614 was sponsored by Senator Cunningham relating to providing liquor to minors. I have a committee substitute, and it was distributed lunchtime yesterday. The substitute differs from the introduced version in that a new subsection is added which states that it is a Class B felony if a property owner knowingly allows a person under 21 to drink, and such person kills or injures another while intoxicated. Do I have any discussion on that one?
Mr. Chairman, was that, and I don't have the substitute in front of me, if somebody has a copy. How are we changing that from the original bill? I think I raised some issues with this last year because it creates a new crime.
Senator Cunningham here. There it is. Maybe he can answer it for you. He's right here.
Yeah.
Senator,
Uh,
does it
go ahead. Sorry.
differ?
How does it differ? It adds a penalty to the, if there's death or injury, and then it's left out of the original one,
Okay.
and made it a class B.
The bill last year, I need to look through it because I think I looked at the original bill and not the substitute. The one last year, the language was, the felony was for failing to stop someone in the commission of a crime. That may have been a
No, I
similar bill.
don't think it's changed, Senator. I think it's the same language, I think.
Okay.
The failure to stop, I guess, would be if you supplied the alcohol, if you went in and supplied the alcohol in it, and you didn't supply it, that would be stopping. If you did, that would be.
Was that in a different bill? Because we did have discussion about it, but was that in a different bill?
I don't
Not this
think so.
one?
I think it's the same. I think it's been a year, and I don't remember exactly, but, that's why the substitute came about, was because they got off the original bill last year, didn't have a penalty, I don't think, for death or injury. I think Senator Munsinger on the floor, he was going to be here this morning, off an amendment that I didn't realize that to consider a youth under 21 intoxicates 0.02 instead of 0.08. And I wasn't aware of that, so he wants to make sure that the person, I think he's going to offer on the floor like 0.06 instead of 0.02.
Okay. My only concern was that in some of the language last year, Mr. Chairman, and I don't remember if it was this bill or the other alcohol bill that came out of the House, and that may be what I'm thinking.
May have been, I don't think. I think it's the same, Senator.
Yeah, I will vote no, and we'll work on it on the floor. I'll work with the senator and Senator Munsinger as well. I just want to make sure that we're not, it may have been House language that I'm thinking, because that would depart from just basic principles of American jurisprudence. If we were charging somebody a felony for failing to stop a crime that somebody else was. I don't see that in this bill, so I'll vote no since we're creating a new crime. I've been rather outspoken on that, and we'll work it out.
Okay, Senator Shines.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Senator Cunningham on this bill. I was not here when this was offered in committee, but I said I did have some concerns, but I will work this out of committee to make sure we can address those.
It does not affect businesses. If someone goes in underage and shows a fake ID and gives it, you can't come back on it.
Okay.
But I'm going to go to that committee and we'll work through the issues.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, here we go. I make a motion to adopt the committee substitute. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor of adopting the committee sub, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We have adopted committee substitute. Now make a motion to vote Senate committee substitute, Senate Bill 6114, out of committee do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Call roll for Senate committee substitute, Senate Bill 614, out of committee do pass.
Senator Libla.
Aye.
Shines.
Aye.
Dixon.
No.
Munsinger. Roman.
Aye.
Schaefer. Pearls.
Mayor voted 4-1. We have voted Senate committee substitute, Senate Bill 6114, out of committee do pass. And I'll make a motion to exit executive session and resume our regular committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. We're out of executive session. Senator Schaefer, we're going to pick you up. I know you're on a time schedule, so we're going to hear Senate Bill 1037.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Kurt Schaefer, 19th Senate District, here to present Senate Bill 1037. And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, after I present, I don't know how many witnesses there is, but I have to duck out for a pro sitting. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This essentially expands the Stand Your Ground bill that we currently have in Missouri law. Currently, a person does not have a duty to retreat from a dwelling, residence, or vehicle where the person is not unlawfully entering or unlawfully remaining, or from private property that is owned or leased by such individual. What this act does is it provides that a person does not have a duty to retreat from any place where the person is not engaged in an unlawful activity. And if you look at the bill, it's pretty simple. I think it's on page 2. Nope, page 2. section 3 down towards the bottom, it simply brackets out that language and adds that the person doesn't have a duty to retreat as long as they are lawfully where they can be. That's pretty much what it does.
All righty. Any questions, Bill sponsor?
I will just,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just briefly, I know you gotta go, so, what, I'm just curious as to what the expansion of this, what is the part of this issue?
Well, because right now, you have a duty to retreat. Let's say that you're walking down an alley, you're cutting through an alley, and you get confronted by somebody, and you have your CCW, and you are in fear for your safety, the safety of another, you have a duty to retreat right now.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to figure the practical application.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, pretty much right now, property that you own or where you live or in your vehicle, you don't have a
You
duty.
don't have to have that duty.
Correct.
If you're somewhere lawfully and you're not, and you have the right to defend yourself.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, any further questions of Bill sponsor?
So like, how would this be different?
Senator, you want to?
Yeah, to inquire.
Okay.
That's the first time I've never done it appropriately. I apologize, I never usually do that.
That's okay.
To inquire, I apologize for that, Senator. So let's just, I'm trying to better understand between like castle doctrine, which you just talked about, which I supported when I was in the House, and standing your ground. There are multiple versions around the country of stand your ground. And so I'm trying to figure out which one this is, using the example, because I haven't looked at all of that. We typically have not had to deal with that. But like if we can use Trayvon Martin in that case, for example, how would this differ in that case with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin?
Well, I mean, every circumstance is different. All this does is simply say, let's say that you're leaving a restaurant at night and you're walking across the parking lot and you're confronted. You do not, right now you've got a duty to retreat. Under this, you would not have a duty to retreat.
Okay, so there's a case that's terrible. I read a case yesterday on the news where there was 2 women who were victims of a rape at a parking garage in downtown St. Louis. And in both instances, 2 years apart, it was the same person. So, like if I was confronted, I would do whatever I needed to, whatever may happen. But in a situation like that, that person has a right absolutely to do whatever it takes to defend herself or himself.
Well, right now you have a duty, you have a parking garage, you have a duty to retreat.
But you're saying under your bill.
You would not.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, you're right. I mean, if you have a CCW and you're in your house or in your yard where currently you don't have a duty to retreat, or you're in a parking lot or a parking garage, you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do if you reasonably believe that your safety is in jeopardy. But the question is, what happens in a lawsuit and a prosecution after that? Because you're going to do whatever you have to do to protect yourself. But the question is, are you going to second guess in that situation, or are you going to be faced with liability after that? Because somebody says, well, sure, you were a woman by yourself in a parking garage and 2 guys came up to you and reasonably you had a basis to be fearful for your life, but you should have fled. I mean, that's what you're facing right now.
Well, I do want to delve into this. I know that you don't have time, but I want to make sure that there's no gray area, because you are right. There are multiple different types of cases. One size does not fit all. In a situation of a possible rape, I get it. If you're walking home with Skittles, I don't know. I don't get that. So I want to make sure that it's just not like automatically.
Every circumstance is different, obviously, and has to be judged on what happened at the time. And the question always is, in any circumstance like that, what was reasonable? And that has to be determined by somebody after the fact, usually. But what this does, this is about as simple as it could be. It doesn't try to say, well, it's okay here, it's not okay. It just says anywhere you can lawfully be, then you don't have a duty to retreat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, Senator. Any further questions of the bill sponsor? You're welcome to come back anytime during here if you like.
Thank you. I'll try and do that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, first up, in support, Senate Bill 1037. Anyone in support of 1037, come out and take a seat. How many is here in support of 1037? Raise your hand. So I can tell. All right, come on up. There's an empty seat. Jump in it. You're up.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, for the record, Terry Messer with Missouri for Personal Safety. The bill, of course, is prudent as could be. It's bad enough to be victimized, but even worse, if you turn around and you have to hire an attorney and you're drugged through a legal quagmire because you tried to defend yourself, or you did defend yourself, whether effectively or not. This legislation just makes it very clear that if you're the victim of a crime, you're a victim of a potential crime, you're still a victim. And it's good that our state legislature is being very prudent as we look at these matters over the last many years, and we keep improving our system. And I think it's prudent that we go ahead and continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of this witness? Senator Schatz.
Just to inquire briefly, you know, the one comment you made there that when you are a victim of crime, you don't want to become guilty. And that's part, I think, what the senator is trying to accomplish here, is to make sure that, you know, ultimately that they don't turn the tables on an individual that does have to defend himself in some situation, that they become now guilty of a crime. And I think it's ultimately when we see attorneys have this process work, I think that's the problem. I think that's what he's trying to accomplish here.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and there are some pretty horrendous stories out there of what have happened to innocent people because they did do what they had to do to defend
and then
themselves.
you're in a court of law trying to defend your actions and whether or not you were truly felt, you know, safe or whatever. So I think I understand what he's trying to accomplish, and I think it's probably a good bill.
Thank you.
Okay, remind everybody to develop the witness form. Any questions of this witness? Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next up, introduce yourself. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Tony Shepard. I live in O'Fallon, Missouri, nice little small, it's getting bigger. I've got a farm north of there, and as you are correct, I can defend myself on my property. I live right outside the great city of St. Louis, which is now the #1 murder and crime capital, and there they've taken the wonderful position of that, which I think is terrible. The problem that occurs, yes, I'm a legal gun owner. Yes, I have a concealed carry, but if I'm on the street, there's many cases where folks have been accosted on the street. They've given up everything they've had, and they've still been shot. This gives the legal owner that you can defend yourself there. Instead of giving it up and still getting shot, you don't have time to second guess. When somebody walks up to you and they want to mug you, they want to rob you, they want to do you ill will. If you second guess, you're gone.
Hang on just a second. There will be no cell phone use inside this committee hearing room, and there will be no flash photography. You can take pictures if you want. We don't want to see flashes. Okay? No cell phones. Usage. Go ahead.
Thank you. The other reference on there, if I'm at someone else's house, I've got quite a few friends in St. Louis, and overall, I believe St. Louis is a good city. They've got a lot of good people in there, so don't let me feel like I'm slamming them right off the top. But if I'm sitting in someone's house, if I'm visiting, they have a problem. Someone wants to come in and accost them. The homeowner might be detained. This will give me capability of defending myself, the homeowner. If I leave a babysitter at the house, take care of the grandkids or the kids or anyone there, this gives them that right also, that they can defend themselves. You know, you've given me the right to protect myself. Quit taking it away and letting the attorneys come in there. And Senator Schaefer, I respect you very much. He's a great attorney. But they all come in and they all see the dollar sign and they all want to get you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions with us? Senator Crowell.
Comment, Mr. Chair. So this is particularly scary for me, this bill. And it's one thing if you happen to have a babysitter that happens to be in your home, because clearly that person is entering into a place that was unlawful for them to enter. But sometimes when we have to look at fear as real or perceived, the perceived fear among some other folks is the part that becomes particularly scary, especially when you say you can't second guess. So, you know, when we have this discussion, at times, cultural discussion or racial discussions, it becomes particularly troublesome for me, because that threat sometimes is more perceived than real, depending on who the person is or how that person looks. And so I think it's something that we really need to discuss, because it is particularly scary for a number of folks. For those who may be in a circumstance or a situation where that person may not second guess whether that feel really is real. or they have a reason for it to be real, or whether it happens to be a general perceived threat of certain people. So, you know, with that, those are my thoughts. It's something that we're gonna have to have a lot of discussion on. It's something that I'll have a discussion with the sponsor on as well. But this is something that's gonna be really difficult for some of us, and certainly a certain segment of the population. I'll have those discussions
Okay.
with the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of this witness? See, none, thank you, Tony. Thank you. That wasn't a question. I think she just made a statement.
Okay. No problem. We'll talk.
Would you ask him a question there at the end? Sound like you just kind of making a statement?
No, I was making a
Okay, thank
statement, but, some of the things that he addressed, I would understand if those things were outlined in this bill.
All right, so you
Those
kind
so
of,
general,
okay.
yes, it is
yeah,
general.
okay. Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you. All right, anyone else in support of Senate Bill 1037? Grab a seat. See none, opposition, Senate Bill 1037. How many's here in opposition? Raise your hand. Okay, grab an unoccupied seat if you would. Just go ahead and grab your unoccupied. If there's an unoccupied seat you want to testify, just grab it. Right now.
I'm going to speak on behalf of all of us.
Anyone who wants to be in opposition to this bill, raise your hand. Anyone else in opposition to this bill? There isn't? She's the only one in opposition? Okay, grab a seat.
I'm speaking on behalf of.
Oh, you're speaking? Well, I
Yes.
thought, well, I asked if you were speaking in opposition. So everybody else is just going to stay in the audience, right?
That's right.
All right. Please stay in your seat. Okay, here we go.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Becky Morgan, and I'm a volunteer with the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We are a national grassroots organization of mothers who support the Second Amendment and believe that we can come together to find common sense solutions to reducing gun violence in our communities. I'm here today because the committee is considering an extremely dangerous bill that would put Missouri's communities, families, and children at risk. This bill, Senate Bill 1037, would make Missouri the first state since 2011 to become a new stand your ground state. Stand your ground laws give trained or untrained civilians leeway to shoot faster and more often than the U.S. military gives soldiers in a war zone. These laws
That's been a problem also.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
and we should address that as
First
well.
way that you're- go ahead.
So these laws turn everyday conflicts into deadly shootouts by emboldening people to shoot rather than simply walking away or de-escalating a situation. I came here today to make sure that Missouri's mothers and children do not have to experience the tragedies that mothers in other stand your ground states have had to experience. Their experiences and the data which I think we should really consider when we're talking about sensitive legislation such as this. The experiences and the data show just how dangerous these laws are. I want to share the story of a young man named Jordan Davis. Jordan, who is 17 years old, who was shot and killed by an armed man in Florida over a dispute over loud music. Jordan was unarmed and sitting in the back seat of a car when this man opened fire, killing him. Stand your ground laws create a shoot first, ask questions later culture that emboldens people like Jordan's murderer to kill when they could have simply walked away or de-escalated the situation. Because of Florida's stand your ground law, it took 2 separate trials to bring Jordan's murderer to justice before he was held accountable and justice was served. None of that, however, can bring back Jordan Davis. I cannot imagine the agony that his family must have gone through, especially during 2 trials. Shootings like Jordan's have prompted this country to take a closer look at stand your ground laws and the impacts that they have. The facts, and again, the facts and the data are what we should look at. The facts are startling. After Florida passed its stand your ground law, the justifiable homicide rate in that state tripled. And stand your ground laws are associated with an increased number of homicides overall as well, up to 700 more each year nationwide. Stand your ground laws also disproportionately impact communities of color. The justifiable homicide rate among people shot to death in the Black population doubled in stand your ground states, but fell in the rest of the country. When white shooters kill Black victims, the resulting homicides are 11 times more likely to be deemed justifiable than when the shooter is Black and the victim is white. Finally, the justification sometimes given for stand your ground laws is that they deter crime, but actually research shows that stand your ground laws do not deter crime. The evidence and the stories I've recounted make it clear why not a single state has passed a new stand your ground law since 2011. Missouri needs laws that will protect its communities, not laws that will expose Missouri families to senseless gun violence. I ask that you please vote no on this dangerous legislation.
Okay, I've seen Senator Bill's hand first.
To inquire. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Should have seen.
So earlier when I was engaging with Senator Schaefer, because I met the parents or the mother of Jordan Davis during Ferguson, but I also remember another Florida case where there was a woman who had a protection order against her ex-spouse or boyfriend or whatever, and she ended up getting like 20 years in jail. She got out eventually, but it's like she was standing her ground to protect herself. And she ended up being in jail. And she had a protection order against this guy. You know, and then you have these other cases with Trayvon Martin. I'm trying to figure out, like, I believe as a woman, and it may not be a gun, but step to me and something may happen, but I will be defending myself if I am approached by someone. It is terrible to have to hear stories of women who are raped in a public space and they cannot defend themselves. When I saw that story the other day, it made me livid. But on the other side of it, as I was talking earlier, you know, I don't want another Trayvon Martin to happen. I don't want another Mike Brown to happen. You know what happened the other day, and I wish you testified on the bill. You guys were at this racial profiling bill that we had in Senator Dixon's committee. But, you know, we're talking about the racial profiling and what our communities deal with. Like, if I'm protecting myself as a Black woman, I don't want to be put in jail for protecting myself or my children or my grandmother or my mother. And that's what happens. It's the colorization of the justice system, and it's unfair. And so I'm trying to find out a balance. And again, I say it may not be a gun in every single situation. You know, we can scary other things. But, you know, how do we defend ourselves and not end up rightfully defending ourselves and in jail? And then how do we also prevent situations like a Trayvon Martin or a Michael Brown? I mean, that's a huge area. It's a huge area because we're not saying let's be just like these swans and just, you know, victims. We're not saying that, but at the same time, I don't want the kid down my street to be killed, or the 2-year-old the other day. We had a 2-year-old, and by the way, Senator Dixon, after yesterday's committee hearing and after that police officer testified saying that incident did not happen, all of a sudden the St. Louis City Police found those 2 officers who pointed a gun at a 2-year-old. At a 2-year-old, and that was the second time that was done. Like, what is a 2-year-old going to do to hurt somebody? What is a 2-year-old going to do? So I'm trying to figure out, you know, in this big space of racial injustice, the colorization of the justice system, and women being able to defend themselves or victims being able to defend themselves. And I need help with that.
Well, to answer your question, we should explain so people understand that under traditional self-defense law, a person can use force to defend himself anywhere. But when he is outside of his or her home, he cannot use force likely to kill someone or seriously injure someone if there's a safe way to avoid it. And that's a big question, if there's a safe way to avoid it. If there's not a safe way for you to avoid getting raped in a parking garage, you have every right to defend yourself and to use deadly force. So I think we need to be clear on what traditional self-defense law is, which I think is where it needs to be.
Yeah, but we get back to that Florida situation of that woman who had a protection order who I believe historically was battered as well, and she
Yeah.
still got 20 years.
She shot a warning shot in the air.
And 20 years for that, which does not make any sense whatsoever. So, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but we have to look at the victim side as well, I think.
Okay.
This is a crazy area, but anyway.
All right, consider shots.
Too far.
Proceed.
You stated some statistics in a case from Florida and some numbers. I just want to review a little bit of your testimony there. The statistics, where did these statistics come? And if you have those statistics,
Sure,
where they came from, you can provide them to this committee.
I can email those to everybody. It comes from a 2012 study by researchers at Texas A&M.
Okay, I'd like to see it. I
Sure.
mean, obviously, the information is, is important, and where those statistics are developed, and, how they came up with it. The case that you did state, the Florida case where a teen was shot at a car,
Yes.
I don't think falls within the confines of this bill. Obviously, the individual was convicted through a process that, this is not standing, when someone shoots someone in the backseat of the car, that they're not standing their ground. I don't
That
think
was up for debate in Florida.
it may have been up for debate, but obviously it was proven that it didn't work and the guy was convicted. Is that correct?
After 2 trials.
Well, here's the thing. It's simply, I will tell you this, that it may be after 2 trials, but justice did prevail. So you can't cite a case where this, what you're citing there is a case to try to convince us that this is wrong, that obviously isn't the case. I mean, that just didn't happen.
Well, I'd be happy to email other stories of situations of people who were imprisoned, or were released from prison because the defense and, the judgment went the other way. So that was just one story out of many to illustrate that it took 2 trials.
Well,
You know,
it
and
may
I
have
had to
taken
go
2
through
trials.
all
Again, it
that.
could have taken 2 trials for whatever reason. Again, the one problem that I see, and I think what Senator Schaefer is trying to address this bill, is the fact that again, for an individual, then he becomes the person that gets 2 trials to try to defend himself. Now, maybe their defense attorney maybe used this, but ultimately a jury made a decision that wasn't a lawful act, and he was convicted. And I think that we will still see those instances. I think that what this is an attempt to do is to make sure that a lawful person isn't finding himself in court, because ultimately some family would probably, the person to try to engage and defend themselves, going to find themselves in a civil lawsuit because they have a duty to retreat. And I think that's kind of what we're at the heart of the issue here. But again, your statistics, and then you said since 2011, how many states currently have this type of legislation? Do you know off the top of your head?
I believe it's 22 states across the country.
22 states across the country have similar
Stand
legislation.
Correct.
Okay. Well, again, I would like to look at the data and see, where it's derived and where it comes from, and so if you can provide that, I appreciate it.
I'd be happy to send that to everyone.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, this concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 1037. Next up, Senate Bill 1066, Senator Parson. Senator, you may proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, I am Senator Kiki Curls of the 9th District in Kansas City, and thank you for allowing me to present Senate Bill 1066. Senate Bill 1066 allows the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department to add an additional lieutenant colonel to start a new Homeland Security Bureau to investigate Homeland Security issues in the Kansas City area. Our current statute allows for 5 lieutenant colonels within our police department. This legislation would allow them to raise it from 5 to 6 to accommodate the growing need for investigations relative to Homeland Security in the area. Kansas City, we know, of course, is the last police department in the state, of course, of the country, under state control. Years ago, there was an instance where they were reduced to 5 lieutenant colonels. I don't know that there's any specific reason for those who have some institutional knowledge of anything occurred, that we would not be able to go necessarily from 5 to 6. We're hoping, certainly that we can accommodate them. As some of you know, KCI, Kansas City Airport happens to be in the top 5. I think it's number 4 in the country for terrorist pass-through, for those who are known or suspected terrorists. We know, of course, that there are federal authorities that are also helping, of course, with that, but certainly we would like to be able to have a dedicated bureau to also help in certain investigations of those who are locally that we have concerns about. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I also have other folks here that might be able to further answer more detailed questions regarding the bill.
I guess the first thing comes to my mind is why we have to create another position, lieutenant colonel, to pursue that
Well,
task force.
and I'll have folks here from the police department to better be able to speak to that, but I will tell you that with the divisions that we have now, currently, the Homeland Security issues that we take care of are split between 2 different bureaus or departments within the police department.
Okay.
There are also the bureaus that happen to take care of the homicides, the gang-related activity, and all those other things. So we're wanting to specialize to just further be able to accommodate the investigations we have. So we
Okay. Question is the bill sponsor?
Yeah, this would be something that would be, obviously this is directly affecting the Kansas City area, so it would be coming from their funding sources.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funded locally.
Okay.
There really is not.
But I mean, Kansas City has one of the largest city geographies, a very large geography. As
Right,
far
we
as,
do.
Yeah.
We do,
This is
absolutely.
a local funded issue. Okay.
It is.
Okay, first up, any further questions of the bill sponsor? Seeing none, first up is support of Senate Bill 1066. How many's here in support 1066? Anyone else in support of 1066? Okay. You may introduce yourself, don't get funky with us. You may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Ty Grant. I'm a captain of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and I'm here to express our support for this bill. Unfortunately, investigations into this matter are becoming more and more prevalent within our area, within our country, and it's taking more and more of our resources to make sure that we're staying on top of it. Chief Forte decided that this needs to be a priority within our department for our community, which is why he would like to have the ability to add a 6th colonel to oversee these types of investigations. And it's not just investigations, but it's preparedness, the response, and then recovery from them also. Obviously, we would like to deter them from ever happening in the first place, but
Can you tell us how we went from 6 back to 5? Just quickly.
I do not know the history on that. I
Thank you.
Can I have an offline conversation with you about that?
Sure.
If that's okay. Okay.
I'll just keep my interest.
All right, go ahead. The current state statute just states that we can only have 5. It limits us to 5, so this would allow us to have 6.
Any questions of this witness? Senator Romine.
Establishing a 6th colonel, will that create additional staffing as well, or will you move other officers over into jurisdiction there? How will it be more than just adding 1 person to the staff?
No, it's a good question. This will be accomplished with current staffing and current budget. Doesn't create any other funding needs or staffing needs necessarily. It's all done within the department and within our current budget. And it's strictly making this a priority. So as the senator stated, these investigations are handled, most of the resources for this are underneath our Violent Crimes Division within our Investigations Bureau, which also handles many other types of investigations, but prioritizes violent crimes, homicide, rape, robbery, assaults. We would like to separate these 2 so that each of those can be a priority and they're not being taking the same resources necessarily to handle each very important issue within our community.
Okay. Any further questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming over today. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 1066? Seeing none, anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 1066? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, this concludes the hearing of Senate Bill 1066. Senator Carl, would you like to close the remarks? I'd like to make you close the remarks.
Thank you. So, let me say this. This is really, an issue among our Kansas City Police Department. As he said, it's not taking additional resources. It is not taking resources from the state. Clearly, there was something that was changed in statute very years ago, which was under the purview of a couple of legislators at the time that favored moving it from 6 to 5, I believe, with some personal thoughts they had at the time. And so clearly, we'd like to have some flexibility that other police departments all around the state are able to have if they should so desire.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes hearing on Senate Bill 1066. Next up, the Senate Committee Substitute, Senate Bill 791, Supervisor Mike Parson. You may proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senator Mike Parson, representing the 28th Central District, here to present to you Senate Bill 791. Mr. Chairman, you're pretty familiar with this bill somewhat. It had to do with corporate security advisors that we handled kind of late in the session last year. And what it did is there was a change in the statutes and the rules that promulgated under the Department of Public Safety did not change with the statute requirement. And so what this bill simply does is put the standard to the security officer, the private security officer, back to where it was originally. And what basically does is we kind of expanded our authority last year. Some of the law enforcement agencies have concerns with that. This simply says that they have full law enforcement powers when they're on duty or on the property. It's simply what that does, and it's under the Department of Public Safety. And Mr. Chairman, with that, there is a committee substitute, and I think it changes the word from shall to may to Department of Public Safety, is what this bill simply does.
All right. Any questions of this bill sponsor? Anyone in support of Senate Bill, State Committee Senate Bill 790? Introduce yourself and you may proceed.
One of those things. Greg White, Cole County Sheriff. We, first of all, personally, as Cole County Sheriff, and secondly, as Missouri Sheriff's Association, we support this change to the legislation for 3 reasons, really. One, it clearly defines the jurisdiction of private law enforcement, and it restricts them to executing their duties on the property. It doesn't take them out into municipalities or counties anywhere else in the state, just on the property of the agencies that they represent.
Now, what about when they're traveling with executives and so on and so forth, and inside their vehicles and out in the community? And, what about that?
Well, they have the ability to carry.
I think I remember a little bit about this bill.
Well, I'll back it up and tell you that I spoke to the sheriffs in the St. Louis area where they traditionally done this, and they had no issues with it in that area. We had some sheriffs that had issues
last year. The bill as it is now.
And
the law as it is now.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The issue came up is the property or on duty, as Senator Parson said, which means if you're traveling in a protective detail scenario, that's one thing that is covered, and that's allowed. We don't expect you to be responding to domestic disturbance on the street, leaving your protectee. They're there as a private security with the rest authority. Their job would be to work with their protectee. On property, it expands it a little bit with trespass and things of that order. They've got capacity. That's a good thing. It also provides a little bit more indemnification to the DPS director, giving him may versus shall. And that's finding out other additional information on whether or not they will issue the commission to that particular individual. I think it's positive to the state. And the other one is just a slight increase in the financing, which DPS felt would be necessary for them to be able to do it. And it is a pretty minor increase, but it's a slight increase. We don't want the state overburdened with it. We don't want the state to carry a great deal of liability for it. And we want them to do their job, but to do it in a way that protects the citizens of the state.
Okay. Any questions with us? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming today. Next up is support Senate Bill 791. Anyone else in support Senate Bill 791 need to raise your hand? Don't see a hand. Anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 791? Don't see one. Anyone, informational purposes only, Senate Bill 791? Don't see anybody. Senator Parson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you bright and early this morning.
I tell you, it's good to see you. All right, this concludes hearing on Senate Bill 791. Next up, Senate Bill 970, Senator Brown. And one of the bench over there. I see you going back that way. Senate Bill 970, Senator, you may proceed with your.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Dan Brown representing Senate District 16, here for your consideration today, Senate Bill 970. This was brought to me by Highway Patrol, and what it does, it modifies certification procedures for licensing boat manufacturers and boat dealers by removing officers of the Water Patrol Division from doing these permitting to allow permitting by other folks that designated employees for the Highway Patrol. And so what we're doing is updating the wording to allow for personnel other than the uniform officers to complete the inspection. Highway Patrol has motor vehicle inspectors who are assigned to each troop, and they can actually service the dealers on inspections better than uniform officers. They're already checking the auto dealers and inspection stations in the areas and don't have to break and wait, handle calls like the troopers would. And the end result is quicker, more efficient service for the boat manufacturers and dealers. And there will probably be a committee substitute that I'll get to you this week. I think there was a section left out, and we will get you that information.
Okay. Senator Roma.
Will there be certification or qualification requirements identified for this designation?
Yes. In other words, we've already got people that are qualified in the motor vehicle area, and it will be, in my mind, this makes it much more efficient for licensing of boat manufacturers and boat dealers rather than waiting for a uniform officer to get there. Streamlining the service, so to speak.
Okay, any further questions of the bill sponsor? Seeing none, anyone support Senate Bill 970? Come forward. Introduce yourself, don't forget to fill out your witness form.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ian Dunlap with the Missouri Department of Public Safety, and on behalf of the patrol, we are in full support of this. We thank the senator for bringing this forward. And yes, Senator Roman, those folks will be trained. They'll be our brown uniform folks, just as the senator said, to help streamline this process. And that way our road guys are on the road. They won't have to detour and do any inspections. These other designated folks will be able to handle that. So that's all this does.
Approximately how many inspections you do a year of both dealers and manufacturers?
The inspections, I will defer that possibly Senator to Mr. Sham. You,
I'll have to look that one up.
okay, we will look that up and provide that to the committee.
Okay. Any further questions of this witness? Thank you very much. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 970? Raise your hand. Don't see a hand. Anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 970? Don't see anyone. Next up, informational purposes only. Don't see anybody. Senator, again, close your hand.
Appreciate you taking time to hear the bill today.
Glad to have you here. This concludes hearing on Senate Bill 970. Next up is Senate Bill 923, Senator Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. For the record, I am Dan Hegeman of the 12th District in the Great Northwest part of the state, here to present Senate Bill 923, which allows for connected vehicle technology testing program. Currently, the traveling distance between semi-trailers and tractor trailers is required to be a minimum of 300 feet. But the developments of new technology would allow for what they call platooning, a process in which two tractor trailers are electronically linked together using wireless communications and radar. Each truck has a driver, but when linked, the front driver controls the speed and braking of both trucks. This allows properly equipped trucks to travel in line only 30 feet apart. This technology has two benefits. One is fuel savings, to create a significant fuel economy savings by allowing the tractor trailers to effectively what they call slipstream behind the leading tractor trailer, since they would be electronically linked only 30 feet apart. And then secondly, just traffic safety. It would reduce the potential and potentially prevent frontal collisions by automatically applying the brakes on both vehicles, thereby eliminating human reaction time for the trailing vehicle. Senate Bill 923 allows for the implementation of a pilot project of this practice in technology in Missouri. Such testing programs shall be limited to trucks operating on state public highways and must be approved by the Highway and Transportation Commission before the technology can be used. With that, Mr. Chairman, I have some witnesses that are much more able to answer technical details about this than I.
Okay, any questions, bill sponsor, Senator Romine?
Will this be limited to 4 lanes, or will they be allowed any state highway?
It would be, I believe it would be 4 lanes, but it would be what the Missouri Department of Transportation would feel, and the commission would allow. But it really is, it's really aimed at 4 lanes, yes.
And I want clarification, because if it's 2 lanes, the opportunity to pass is reduced considerably. If you got 2 tractor trailers within 30 feet, there's just, you can't pass both of them. It just,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they would require. It's not, I don't, as I read through the bill, I don't see it in the bill, but that would be, like the rules and regs that Department of Transportation Commission would allocate. And all they've talked about is looking at 4 lanes with me.
it'd be nice to have that clarified.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can have somebody clarify.
Okay, any further questions, bill sponsor? Seeing none, first, it's support of Senate Bill 923. Anyone else in support of 923, grab an unoccupied chair.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Tom Crawford, here on behalf of Missouri Trucking Association, and I brought up Mr. Steve Boyd, who is a co-owner and founder of Peloton Tech, the group that has this technology, if anybody has any questions. Essentially what we're asking for is just the ability to kind of demonstrate this technology here in Missouri. Senator Romine, your question relative to where is something that is to be developed. But yeah, we're talking mainly on the 4 lanes where it's safe to do so. We want this program to be successful, not have the general public upset at us in general. And if you look on I-70, 63, 36, places like that, at night, you'll probably get a good sense of the companies that would be interested in doing this. So we provided a bunch of handouts about the technology. We have a video. We're not going to show it today, but if anybody has an interest in seeing it and seeing kind of a video representation of what this technology is and what it does, we'd be willing to do that. I've got a little bit of the capability demonstrated with my vehicle, so if anybody wants to take a ride with me sometime, I can show you a little bit of how it works. But the demonstration, the distances range from 35 to 80 feet, and it depends on the capabilities of the specific equipment that's involved, the weights they have on, the order of pairing and the ability to draft is going to be based on the capabilities of the 2 trucks to get paired up. In the test programs, we're probably talking companies like UPS and others that are interested in doing it. The technology and the equipment that goes on those are going to be state-of-the-art, new equipment, that kind of stuff. So as this develops and it gets on more and more, you'll have different types of equipment available. I know Steve can talk a little bit more about who they're working with. So I'll end it there and answer any questions.
Any questions this witness? Senator Schatz.
I'm just curious, this technology, and mostly it would be a trucking company would have this on their particular vehicles. You wouldn't find this where you would link up with someone.
Not yet.
Not yet, but it could go there, I'm assuming. But so obviously they'd have to travel the same routes and be able to run concurrently with each other. So.
Okay, any further questions this witness? Seeing none, next up. Oh, Senator Munster, I didn't see you, sorry.
Sorry. And be mostly 4 lane, and like I said, there's not very many stoplights, but occasionally there may be. What if the first truck goes through on a yellow?
It just breaks. The second driver is always available to make a correction and a human judgment. You'll see folks break apart all the time. If somebody cuts in the middle, they break apart. It's once you see it, you'll understand.
Okay.
If maybe I could answer a little more on that question, which is to say that indeed. Sorry.
You haven't introduced yourself yet, yeah. Okay, hang on a second. All right, any further questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Now you're up. Now you can introduce yourself. Who you with?
Apologies, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity. Steve Boyd, Peloton Technology, and good questions here this morning, and to answer a few of them right now. That, as Tom said, the use of this technology is aimed for multi-lane divided highways with 2 lanes in each direction. In addition, it's not intended for operation in an environment where there's intersections or lights. So that scenario would not arise. And our technology uses a network operations center, cloud-based cellular system, as well as onboard systems to limit where the system can operate. So the drivers would not be able to make an error of using that system in a traffic light intersection environment or on a 2-lane roadway. So I would say in general regarding this technology, first of all, that we were honored by the opportunity to work with the state, and it's great to see leadership by Missouri on this kind of technology. We think this is one of a number of technologies that I think will be looked at by the Road to Tomorrow program in the work of the commission on this topic. So we appreciate the consideration of this particular technology. This is a kind of technology that's being developed around the world right now. It's based on 20 years or more of research on these kind of systems. And the base, the sort of core of the system begins by making each individual truck safer all the time by requiring the installation of the state-of-the-art collision mitigation systems, lane departure warning system. So each truck is safer all the time on its own. Then using vehicle-to-vehicle communications, as Tom talked about, we can put those trucks a little closer together, sync that braking and acceleration so that they, in a millisecond, the 2 trucks are in sync, and you eliminate the driver reaction perception time and the brake lag that occurs there. That allows you to get the trucks a little closer. As Tom said, the falling distances are not actually down at 30 feet for the kind of systems coming out ahead here, but they're more in the order of 40 to 80 feet in distance. In addition, the system is limited to just pairs of trucks, so there's 2 trucks at a time, and the system in part to allow vehicles to exit or enter the roadway if they choose to between the 2 trucks. There's been a new study done by the Department of Transportation, USDOT, that indicates, though, that for closer falling distances between trucks, those cut-ins are pretty unusual. It's a wide study on this. Those things do happen from time to time, though, and the system is ready to deal with that. So in general, I think our technology is focused on improving individual truck safety and truck safety in pairs. Today on the roads, many of you will see trucks are often traveling fairly close together, manually driven. So this system actually improves the status quo as far as truck safety, since that drafting is kind of occurring manually today.
Any questions of this witness? 2 shots.
Obviously the technology exists. I mean, the 2 trucks obviously have to be somewhat paired similarly in the horsepower in order for this technology to work, I'm assuming, with, because to keep up, I mean, as far as, and I'm not familiar with, one thing I do watch, NASCAR, and I can tell you that after you watch the Daytona 500, you see how drafting is, how that actually works when someone gets out of that draft. It's a big deal. But how close do they have to physically be to get into, to catch the benefit from that? It seems like 80 feet would be, I guess maybe it's possible for it to work, but it just seems like a long distance to me.
Good questions. It turns out because the tractor trailers are much larger vehicles, have a much higher profile, their track testing independently done has now shown that there are rear truck benefits out to 80 feet or even further, and just a much higher disturbance of air than you'd see with an aerodynamic NASCAR. You're right that they need to be much closer in that kind of format. But the optimal savings performance for trucks we've seen is on the order of 40 to 50 feet. And that also allows more sort of operational room. One other issue is we don't want to have the trucks too close where the driver in the rear doesn't have as good a view of the road.
Hasn't got view. What is again, and maybe you can tell us the fuel savings, I mean, how much generated savings by being able to do the opposite? Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, independent studies have now shown, done by DOT and Department of Energy and a major fleet showed 10% savings on the rear truck, 5% on the front. These are very significant numbers, the largest kind of
There's a
individual.
benefit for the front guy too as well.
That's right. That's right. Now, the savings in the front truck does drop off a little more rapidly as the separation widens. But even out to 50, 60 feet, there is a front truck benefit. So this is intended for use by within the sort of leading fleets, the leading package carriers and others are lined up to try this out. And so this is only to be used on sort of the state-of-the-art trucks with the best safety systems, best drivers. And, in addition, to your other good question, the pairing of trucks is centered on the right kind of performance match for those trucks. So that you don't put trucks together that won't be able to keep up with each other.
Yeah. And I probably would argue that we have a lot of slip stringing that goes on and currently, when you travel down the interstate as there is, but this is kind of an interesting process. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you see their video, I think you'll understand more specifically how it works. And it's pretty slow. All right, any further questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming today. Next up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brad Green with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'd like to go on record in support of this bill. We welcome and encourage these types of innovative solutions and technologies that can reduce cost of doing business, increase safety on the road for the truckers and other drivers, as well as providing an enhanced and more efficient platform for these trucks to get the goods across the state of Missouri.
Okay, any questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. I'll get to read this form. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 923? Anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 923? Anyone in informational purposes only? Senator, getting closing remarks.
Oh, got one for information.
You better get to move, then he's about to get in this.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jay Wunderlich with MoDOT. And for information purposes, we support this effort. This is kind of a kickoff, if you would. In 2014, our Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission kicked off the Roads to Tomorrow campaign. And what we have
This committee, we've been worried about roads for today and tomorrow.
That's correct, Senator. I understand 100%.
This committee is very concerned about roads today.
Period.
Period. And tomorrow, right? Go ahead.
Anyway, we're looking for new technologies, and this is one of the ones that came to the forefront. This is kind of a two-step. One, you would bless us with the opportunity to change the distance between trucks that travel behind each other right now through statute. And then the second and more important part is the rulemaking process, where the department would work with the members of the General Assembly, industry, and most importantly, our law enforcement officers to make sure that this thing is implemented in the most efficient, effective, and safe way possible. So again, we're here to assist any way we can.
Okay, any questions this witness?
I would make a comment.
Okay, you can.
I know that
You're the vice chair.
I know that the major is probably not want to get up here and testify, but and it's just out of curiosity, how well do we regulate that following distance currently? I mean, is there, again, maybe we talk outside this. You want to talk about it. I'll just keep your hand up to the front. No, I don't want to. I will make him go through that. I'll get him out of the hallway.
All right, any further questions this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Senator Gay, closing remarks.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, this is pretty cool technology, and I certainly appreciate your favorable consideration of moving this forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator, for bringing your bill here. This concludes the committee on transportation and public safety.